Hello everyone, I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary. Let me just say, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute since I've made a video besides the one I made on my reactions to the fights that were announced for the first two numbered events for the new Paramount deal. But like I said, it has been a while since I've been back in action. Just wanted to say I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And special news, besides covering the fights for UFC 324 this week, I'm also going to be covering the main event for One Fight Night 38, which is going to be headlined by Fabricio de Andrade versus Uk Urgel Baktaku, which should be a fantastic MMA fight in one. And I'm also going to be covering the main event for the boxing card, which is headlined by Isaac Pitbull Cruz and Lamont Roach Jr. I wanted to cover that one specifically because that's a boxing match that very much intrigues me and kind of interesting how it's going to shape up the super lightweight division. But without further ado, let's break down the first fight of UFC 324. In our first fight, we got Mohamed Naimov taking on Mairon Santos. You essentially have a fight between two guys who bring very different approaches. One is built on discipline and structure, and the other pressure and pace. So it's more of a kind where the winner isn't necessarily going to be the more skilled fighter, at least in my eyes. It's more so who's going to play to their preferred rhythm and tempo. Looking at Mairon Santos, he's currently undefeated in the UFC. He knocked out Con Offley to win the Ultimate Fighter season. I think it was 31. Yeah, with who was it? Grasso Shevchenko. Oh, then he went on to beat Francis Marshall at UFC 313, which I did think he lost that fight. That was a bullshit split decision, but is what it is. And then he moved up to lightweight and beat Sodiq Yusuff this May. So currently undefeated in the UFC, like I said. It's kind of interesting that he fought at lightweight. I know Santos is a big featherweight, but I didn't think he was super big, but apparently he hated cutting the weight. Hey, though I will say he does look much better at featherweight than he did at lightweight. That's just my opinion. Meanwhile, Mohamed Naimov is 4-1 in the UFC. He beat Nathaniel Wood in a fight where he cheated his ass off, and I still hate that he got the win on that. Beat Eric Silva via an injury like 14 seconds into that fight. Then he lost to Felipe Lima, who, no shame in that. Felipe Lima is a fantastic prospect. But currently on a 2-fight win streak, beat Con Offley this February, and then most recently beat Bodan Grad in June. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how these two pair up. But without further ado, let's break down their styles. For Mohamed Naimov, it's more so a fighter who is pretty fundamentally sound. When you watch him, it's immediately clear that nothing is really of a waste to him. His stance is clean, his guard is disciplined, and he almost never throws without a technical purpose behind it. Naimov is the kind of athlete who doesn't really rely on raw aggression. Instead, he leans on timing and structure. He uses that jab to measure range. He keeps his feet constantly aligned with defense. He doesn't really let the pace of the fight sway him too much. He's also pretty good at, now, while I have said he's more disciplined than he is aggressive, he does use his overall physical attributes pretty well. He uses his sides to grade it to his advantage when he goes for takedowns specifically, like when you saw against Con Offley, who is honestly one of the smaller featherweights on the roster. You saw how Mohamed Naimov kind of got his body lock with the underhooks and then kind of forced Offley down. What makes Naimov effective is his ability to maintain control, even in small amounts. When an opponent is going to charge forward, he doesn't panic. He stays back, adjusts his distance, and wait for the opening. You kind of saw that when he destroyed Jimmy Malarkey with that right hand. And he kind of waited by the fence, found the timing, then unloaded with the right hand and just smashed the Malarkey chin. And when an opponent slows down, he's ready to edge in with straight shots and test reactions. And because he's not just a striker, her opponents can't get careless. He's shown he can win via submissions. He does have them on his record, and he can defend takedowns, and he can threaten with level changes when necessary. His style is pretty balanced. He is pretty well rounded, but the foundation is all about his discipline. He fights clean and ordinarily fights where he dictates the rhythm exchange by exchange. We kind of saw that with Bogdan and Grad, where Grad was kind of throwing just whatever he could to be effective, while Naimov was pretty disciplined, all things considered, was able to, stay behind his educated strikes and, go for takedowns when necessary. Same with, like I said, Con Offley. He didn't rush. He just controlled the much smaller fighter in there. one via his striking mostly. But like I said, got the underhooks, went for the takedown. And even though I hated how he fought Nathaniel Wood, I'm not going to get over that. That I just can't. I won't deny he did use his size and wrestling to good advantage, not just his striking, when he wasn't, kicking him in the balls or something, or grabbing the fence. Now, looking at Mairon Santos. Mairon Santos is a different fighter, brings a different type of energy in the cage compared to Naimov. Santos, he is a striker by nature, and he looks the part the moment the action begins. He likes fast pace, he likes volume, he likes to take the center of the octagon and put opponents on the defense. His striking output is higher, his timing is sharper, and he carries a sense of confidence that comes with real finishing power. Now, we haven't seen that finishing power since his first UFC win against Con Offley, where he caught Offley with the counter left hook. But where he doesn't shown in terms of much power as of late against like Marshall and Yusuf, he makes up for it with pretty good accuracy, pretty good volume. Specifically, when I talk about volume, I don't mean like he's striking with like bunch of punches and kicks over and over again in combination. It's more so his calf kicks that are a lot of his volume striking, especially at distance. And what sets Santos apart isn't just aggression. It is controlled aggression. He's very, very good at not being overly aggressive. Like he just comes in swinging, ready to knock you out. He has a very measured approach. He mixes combinations fluidly. He throws with purpose. And he does a great job of pushing the fight in directions that suit him. When he gets comfortable, his rhythm becomes very difficult to disrupt. You saw how hard Sadiq Yusuf, who is a pretty high-level fighter, or I think even with the current skid he's on, had so much trouble doing anything to Santos, because Santos picked him apart at range, was able to deny all the takedowns, and overall just kind of force Yusuf to just hug him against the fence for portions of that fight. And when he lands clean, he is sharp, man. He really is. Santos avoids more than he absorbs, and his pressure forces opponents to make rash decisions. The longer he gets to set the tone, the more dangerous Santos becomes. And Santos is a fighter that thrives when he can build momentum. He wants the exchanges, he wants activity, and he wants the fight where he works best. On the feet, pressure forward. That being said, Santos can fight off the back foot. I'm not saying he's pressure only and he loses. In fact, you look at some of his recent UFC performances, they mostly came off him being the matador to his opponent's bull. Except, like I said, I thought he lost the Francis Marshall fight, where in that one I thought he was a little over passive, and Marshall was doing a great job of being the aggressor in that fight. But, like I said, Con Offley, he got too aggressive, boom, counter left hook. Sadiq Yusuf got overly aggressive, just kept eating calf kicks, front kicks, and a jab. That's mostly what he ate in that fight. Now, when these two approaches collide, the fight really just comes down to tempo. Because Naimov needs space, structure, and time to read. Santos needs motion, pressure, and opportunities to force a reaction. If Naimov can control distance early, he can slow this fight to a crawl. Excuse me. Touching with the jab, stepping away from dangerous entries, and pushing Santos when he overcommits. The slower a fight kind of plays directly into Naimov's strengths, it can become a careful chess match where he can wait, calculate, and strike on his terms. I do think, technique for technique, Santos is the vastly technically superior striker, but I think both have roughly the same level of power. And I do think Naimov is going to be as strong as Santos. Like, I think both these guys could honestly fight at lightweight. They're pretty big for the weight class. Though I suppose some of their opponents are small enough to where it makes it seem like they're bigger than they actually are. Because you think of like Naimov's last few opponents, he fought like Nathaniel Wood, who's a bantamweight coming up. He fought Felipe Lima, another bantamweight that came up, and so on. You see where I'm getting at? Some of his opponents are a bit on the small side. Like Con Offley, I think could make bantamweight, if I'm being honest. Or like Mairon. Actually, it's kind of funny how both have a win at lightweight. Like, Naimov beat Jamie Malarkey, who's a lightweight, and Santos moved up to take on Sadiq Yusuf, who granted is normally a featherweight, but still. I do think Naimov is going to be as big as Santos in that fight. And like I said, I think roughly both have the same level of power. It's just Santos beats Naimov in terms of technique on the feet. But I do think if Santos can walk him down, or sorry, I do think if Santos can like play the range game, not just walk him down, but like dictate the terms of engagement, whether it's on the front foot, back foot, or in the middle of the ring, I think Santos will not allow Naimov to really breathe in there. Not give force reactions, and those reactions kind of strip away any structure Naimov is going to depend upon. Under that kind of pace, I don't think that Naimov can rely on perfect reads. He's forced into defensive patterns, and that's where Santos leads his best work. Now, Naimov's grappling threat could be a factor, but Santos has pretty good takedown defense. I mean, I look back at the Francis Marshall fight and I think of how he immediately got up, even when taken down by a pretty good wrestler in Marshall. I feel like the key is simple here. Naimov wants to decide when exchanges happens. Santos wants exchanges happening constantly. It's whoever really dictates the tempo, dictates the fight. And my official prediction, I've got to go with Mairon Santos in this one. I respect the structure and composure of Naimov, and I do think he's pretty well-rounded. And in a slow, more methodical fight, it could really be nipped and tucked, and he absolutely could win this. But I think Santos has the ability to take fighters out of that comfort zone. His pace, his volume, his accuracy directly challenge the disciplined rhythm Naimov relies. And the more Santos presses forward, the more he forces reactions, and the more he forces reactions, the more the fight tilts in his favor. So I do. So I'm going to go with Mairon Santos. Like I said, Naimov's wrestling, grappling could be a threat, but Santos has shown pretty good takedown defense so far, and I think he's going to prove it again. I'm going to pick Mairon Santos here, and I'm going to pick him via decision because Naimov's pretty tough. I will say I'm a little surprised that Santos is a 2-1 favorite betting wise, but I guess it's because he's more of a prospect and he shows a bit more upside potential. But either way, that's been my breakdown of this fight. Once again, I'm picking Mairon Santos to win via decision. But with that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. Stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see you all next time.